Sorcerers! Josh here, and I want to discuss the collection. So the first video I made about the collection, I made that video very quickly. I think it was 10 to 20 minutes after the announcement. I was filming. Read through it a couple of times, tried to make sure I had all the details down. Now, we have more information from Eric's Curiosa about the collection. And also, I talked to Bruce over at Golden Eagle Cards and CJ over at Old Fashioned Game Nerds. I think that's his channel. I think that's right. And yeah. The collection is going to fundamentally change how we play sorcery. I think many people, myself included, thought of the collection as a sideboard, as something that you can tuck cards away to deal with certain cards within the meta. And again, I am speaking at this point to competitive play. For casual play, this stuff is not going to apply. This is in relation to events, competitive play at those events. Here is the thing, and specifically I'm focusing on two cards. Those two cards are Toolbox and Silver Bullet. You get 10 cards in your collection. They can be any 10 cards. Toolbox lets you get any ordinary, and Silver Bullet lets you get any exceptional spell. These are spells. I shouldn't say any, because it doesn't let you access your atlas. It is spells. And again, this is why I judge. This is why I'm not a player. I did not see how profound this is. But before we get into how profound this is, first, the big news from Eric's Curiosa about the collection. They have officially clarified that rarity restrictions must be obeyed in competitive events in your spellbook, atlas, and collection. So no sticking a ring in your spellbook and sticking a ring over in your collection in an event, because that breaks the rarity restriction. So over all those things combined, you must maintain the rarity rules. So that puts an end to that little nightmare. Although, one other thing they mentioned, in limited formats, like draft and sealed, your collection is every card you haven't used. Given how much Gothic is going to allow us to access the collection, I think limited in Gothic just improved considerably. The problem with beta limited is that there were so many cards, it was tough to get what you needed and that type of stuff. But with this whole concept of, in limited formats with Gothic, I'm going to have access to my collection, every card I opened, that really changes things. So, very excited for that. One other thing before we dive into the big thing that I totally missed. Looking at Toolbox and Silver Bullet specifically. Those cards say the bearer may cast. The bearer. Now, when I read that, my mind immediately said, okay, so the bearer may cast, but the bearer obviously would need to be a spellcaster. Yeah, I'm wrong. My mind went to that because who can cast spells? Spellcasters. This clearly seems to be like fire breathing. Beasts can cast fire breathing. These items, based on this wording, and unless we get clarification from Eric's Curiosa, and we may, the bearer may cast. So, your random unit could have a toolbox and could cast a spell. Now think about that. Some minion and all the cards that require nearby and adjacent, and all of a sudden, rather than endangering your avatar, you can move a minion up to do it. That's scary. That's huge flexibility. And that's what these two cards state. So now, we've got rarity restriction, this profound idea that whoever has these artifacts in their hands, the bearer may cast, which gives even more flexibility to casting those spells tucked away in your collection. When I made my first video with the toolbox, I was like, are people going to include these? And I was like, no, people are definitely going to include them. And this is the profound part. And I'm going to apply this to my Snag deck. Okay? Because that's what I know. I played it a lot, so it's what I know. In my deck, I really want to get a Pudge Butcher out as quickly as possible. I need to pull their avatar into my realm so I can start hitting on him. I need to get a Pudge Butcher. Now with Silver Bullet, I can put 2 Pudge Butchers in my deck. I can put a Pudge Butcher over in my collection. And I can put 2 Silver Bullets in my deck. So I will effectively have 4 chances at a Pudge Butcher. Now you can say, yeah, but you might want to use the Silver Bullet for something else. And that's very true. That you're going to have to really think about this. What are the 10 cards I'm going to stick over here? What cards are key for me to get an access to make my deck run? So for those of you out there who are upset about the whole 60 card deck size, based on what I'm thinking today, the collection is going to mitigate some of that 10 card increase. And in the case of cards that you really need, for example, the Pudge Butcher that I need, you're actually going to get more opportunities in your main spell book to get to a Pudge Butcher. Now, it's going to cost you a little bit more, right? Toolbox is 2 mana. Silver Bullet is 2 mana. But Toolbox is common sense, as was pointed out to me by Bruce at Golden Eagle Cards. I think it was Bruce. Oh yeah, it's Toolbox is common sense for everyone. Now, it can only access those 10 cards over there, but still, it can access those 10 cards. So, when I think about how I'm going to update Snag, and obviously or even if I can, obviously we all know the change to Free City really hurt that deck. But when I think about updating it within the context of seeing these cards, I know that of the 10 cards I'm going to have to add to my spellbook, 2 are Silver Bullets and 3 are Toolboxes. And I'm going to put Pudge Butcher, Led Astray, and Riptide into my collection. And in the case of ordinaries, think about this. I'm going to be able to put 3 Led Astrays in my deck and 3 Toolboxes. Oh, and by the way, because that's an ordinary, I could have 4 Common Sense too. I could literally have 10 chances to draw a Led Astray. That is crazy. And yes, if I don't draw the Led Astray, I'm going to pay a little bit more to get that card. But it doesn't matter. This is going to smooth out the way that we get cards. It's going to make decks, because you can use that 10 cards in this way, instead of, oh, I'm going to put, I don't know, some card, Archie versus Archie, a good strategy is to use cards like Guard or Border Militia, because Archie has trouble dealing with, a mass of little minions. I'm going to tuck Guards in my, well, there's not one for elites yet. Let's say Border Militia. I'm going to tuck Border Militia in my collection so that I can Border Militia, have a bunch of 1/1s, and hopefully do some damage with those. That's not the way that the collection, I'm after this has been explained to me, I don't think the collection is going to be used that way at all. Maybe to some degree, right? You've got 10 cards. So maybe those 10 cards, maybe 3 or 4 are designed to counter specific decks within the meta. And maybe it may be that, you know, some deck requires that you dedicate a few more cards. So maybe it gets up to 5 or even 6. But when I think about what you could do, what I could do with Snagged, how I could drop 3 toolboxes and 2 silver bullets into my 60 card spell book. And that takes 5 of the new 10 slots. And those cards are effectively the cards I need to get to. Pudge Butcher, Led Astray, Riptide. They are those cards. Yeah, I know. It's wild. It is just wild to think about that is where this is going to head. It's going to be a new era with Gothic. And for those of you worried about 60 cards, I don't think I would. Not with this collection mechanic. And who knows? There may be more of these things that can access your collection. I mean, we've seen other cards, but they go after like a ghoul or they go after a hellhound. What else might they go after? What other things might we be able to get from the collection? Especially in relation to current cards that we all use. I don't know. Maybe there's a card that lets you search out a demon from your collection. Pudge Butcher's a demon. Vile Imp is a demon. Think about that. Where could this go? And Eric Curiosa likes to keep surprises. They've stated that with Gothic, they're going to show us a lot more than they did with Arthurian Legends. But you know they're going to keep some stuff hidden. And what if that stuff is related to the collection mechanic? What if there is an avatar whose ability, right? He has, you know, the usual ability, tap to play a side or draw a side. And he has a static ability of your collection is 20 cards. Think about it. After having this explained to me what this means, the number of things that Eric Curiosa could do with the collection is astounding. And it will forever fundamentally change gameplay. I'm excited. You know, I thought the collection was a great idea to begin with, but now, thinking about this, I will admit, this could make certain decks a little bit more problematic. But Eric Curiosa also confirmed that Gothic is the largest set they've ever produced. The largest set they have ever produced. So are we getting 450 cards? It may be like 425, but 450, I think 500 is too much. But 450 or something close to that, 440, that's exciting. And we have seen a drop in the bucket. I think Gen Con, because of the announcements over just the past couple of days, is going to be incredible for Sorcery. And you all know, I was already excited for Sorcery at Gen Con. I was already excited because of the movement where they placed them in the main game hall. People are going to be walking by to get to the vendor hall and they're going to see people playing Sorcery. They're going to see this product. They're going to see people playing, having fun. So I was already excited at the prospect of the growth. And I can tell you that after last Gen Con, I saw my largest growth ever for this channel. So I think the same thing's going to happen at Gen Con, and it's going to be even better. And I know that relates to me, and I try not to, I'm just having fun with this. I'm not trying to turn it into a business. But the idea that now even more players or people who will be players are going to be able to see Sorcery And in addition, we may get a ton of Gothic previews for this massive set. Gen Con is just going to be it. If you're coming, I truly believe you are in for a treat. I don't normally get really excited about games or releases. In my past life, they were sort of a business for me. But this, I mean, I'm excited. I can tell that I am so ready for this. Not just because we're going to onboard new players, but we're going to see all these potential new cards from Gothic. And since we now have some of the mechanics behind them, especially this collection mechanic, any card that they show that has the word collection, do something to your collection in it, I'm going to be looking at. Can I use this? Because the collection is going to change how we play this game forever. And I think it's going to make the experience more positive. And you will be able to do some of the weird, fun things that Sorcery allows you to do more reliably. Which hopefully means that on a competitive level, the number of viable decks increases considerably. Man. Yeah. It's going to be good. So, if you're worried about those 10 extra cards you got to add, 5 of them, Toolbox and Silver Bullet, taken care of. Potentially, right? I think Toolbox, if you have access to common sense, you may not see as much use. You know, if you're playing Earth, you may not see that they're dropping in the toolboxes. But if you don't, we've all got common sense now. And you can access those 10 cards. Man, I just think about it. Now, granted, it's not as if you fundamentally have like 4 Pudge Butchers, right? But you can get to it. You have more opportunity to get it out when you need it. You have access to the card. And, as we all know, one of the most important things, one of the most powerful mechanics in any trading card game is draw a card. Let alone to be able to essentially tutor for a card from this 10 card collection. It's draw a card and draw the card you want. It's going to be so good. But boy, is it going to change play. I can't wait. I'm excited. Gothic is going to be a new chapter. And with all the things happening, Gen Con, I think they've announced they're going to be, they've announced they're going to be at Spiel. I think. Haven't they? Maybe they haven't. They'll be at European events. And, we got the Star City game stuff. Sorcery, the end of this year. This last 5 months of the year, I think it's going to be crazy again. So if there's something you've been thinking about, something you've been wanting to get, I would get it now. Because I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that there are a whole lot more people who are playing Sorcery and want those same things that you want. That's it for today. As always, keep on contesting the round!